Hello, friends. Welcome back to another episode of the What Savvy Said podcast. My name is Savannah, aka the Savvy behind What Savvy Said. And guys, today's episode is a beast. She's packed with so much goodness. This is the episode that I've been wanting to record for well over a year. When I sat down and originally came up with a podcast idea, this was the first episode that I had on the docket to even want to create. I knew that I wanted to sit down and talk to Victor. I knew that he had so much information to share from working with him, but even just in keeping up with his Instagram and following along with his journey since I've stepped away from film, I knew that Victor would have just a ton of things that would really help us. And honestly, this episode took a complete turn from what I thought it would be in the best way possible. So there's so much vulnerability and such truth and such rawness and such a great conversation happening today that I am so excited for you guys to be a part of. I will give a few disclaimers. There are quite a few things that I cut out of this episode. So if for whatever reason something seems like maybe I missed a point or we referenced something that we're not actually talking about, is probably because I cut it out because we got real chatty real quick. And there are some things that you guys just could probably live without knowing, but there are also some things that I think would probably protect a few people if we didn't talk about on the internet. So I cut those out just because why not? But there's so many other moments in this episode that have stuck with me in the weeks that I've been kind of sitting on this since we recorded it, and things that I know I'll go back to, and the moments of vulnerability and the conversations that Victor's sharing with me about things that he's recently dealt with and the people he's recently talked to, and just so now, if you don't know who Victor is, Victor Jones Moore is a Emmy nominated hairstylist. You will have known his styling from shows like Legacies, Vampire Diaries, the originals. He is a gem of a human. He has created so many styles that you would love, and he tells us today all about getting an Emmy nomination, manifesting that Emmy nomination, recent confrontations on set where he's had to bring up racial conversations and how uncomfortable it was, but the importance of those conversations and working through his own trauma as a Black man and what that experience has been like. And we talk about the experience of being a minority on set, whether you are Black or white, and working at Taylor Berry Studios. We kind of go through all of it. There's so much. I know that in a few years, Victor and I will have like another conversation because he's just growing so much and has so much to share. But I'm really excited for you guys to dive into this. This is one that I would probably just grab a glass of wine and just sit and listen to, because my jam lately has been to like listen to an audiobook in color. So I could totally see myself listening to this episode with a glass of wine, coloring on my iPad. That is a current thing for me. I'm not really loving TV right now, but however you feel like listening to this episode, I do want to kind of warn you, we're going to go into the depths of things. We're not really holding back from anything. We're having those in-depth conversations. I don't know what trigger warnings I should give you up front, but just be prepared that we are not holding back on any tough kind of conversations with this episode. That being said, let's get into this week's gratitude. So I've really been tweaking my routines over the last few months, and I feel like I say this all the time. Maybe it's because I record so many things that I don't actually share with you guys, but I've really spent the last month or so looking at all of my routines and looking at the things that I did in 2020 that served me, or 2019 is kind of the year that I'm going off of, because I had a really good groove in 2019. But I'm really just kind of focused on the things that are serving me, the goals that I have, what are the things that I need to focus on. And even if I've got maybe a bigger goal, that sometimes it might need to be pushed a little. So you guys know, if you follow me on Instagram, that I have a half marathon on the brain, that I want to do it. But over the last, 6 months, my mental health kind of took a bit of a, turbulent moment, and with that came some not great habits, and that meant I've gained weight. And I don't really have an issue with gaining weight. I definitely know that I feel like I look better in certain capacities, but I'm also a runner, and guys, if you run or you've kind of gone through the experience of gaining weight as a runner, or just have gained and lost weight in general, but specifically with running, it just really changes your ability to run because you're carrying that extra whatever on your body. And so I've really just looked at, kind of going through the energy of the last year. I tend to be somebody who's very easily able to kind of pull back from stuff and not really be caught up in everybody else's energy and excuses, or at least I try to be. And I did not do a great job of holding boundaries in 2020. I will be 100% honest with that. So the last few weeks for me have really just been honoring where I'm at in my journey, what my goals are, what do I need to shift around, and how do I need to prioritize things so they actually work for me, so that I'm actually getting things accomplished. And part of that is saying, okay, well, maybe I need to push things, or maybe I need to focus on something else right now. So I feel very grateful for the kind of peace and flow that I'm getting into, and just acknowledging what I need, and the continual process of acknowledging what I need. Because before, I was very much somebody who was like, I have to be a woman of my word. I have to be on these things. If I say I'm going to do it, I have to do it. And I still try to live to that about 99% of the time. But I like to be somebody who is constantly honoring myself and setting those boundaries. And that's kind of what I need. Like, I need to be able to put things on my calendar and be booked and look forward and have that kind of hope and have those things. And if I get to a space where I'm like, you know what, I need to reschedule that, I honor that for myself, rather than like jumping in on the last minute, because I'm somebody who needs to have plans. Like, I need to be busy to be happy. So honoring that space, having that grace for myself has been major over the last few weeks. And the other thing that I feel like it lands heavily on the gratitude space for me is my iPad Pro. I bought it for myself for my birthday. It's been on my list forever. And I had these ideas of how I was going to use it, and I haven't quite gotten to all of those ideas, because on the list to do is to write a book this year. That is one of my goals for the end of this year. We're slowly building up the things that work for that, and kind of tweaking and tuning the content that I'm putting out, and just prioritizing what works for me. But I bought the iPad Pro for myself, and I feel like one of the things that's really done for me is that I've been coloring and doing puzzles a lot, and not so much that I'm like scrolling on my phone. Like, if I want to wind down at night, I might, the last couple of nights has been an audiobook. I will put an audiobook on. I will listen to some audiobook. It might be something I've read before. It might not be something I've read before, and I'll just color for a bit. And that's been such a calming way to kind of end my day, where I'm not scrolling through things. I'm not kind of bouncing between everybody's energy. That's the one thing that I don't adore as much about certain aspects of social media. I love social media. It's part of my job. I love talking to you guys. I love interacting with other creators. I love seeing what other people are creating. But the one thing for me as an empath, especially when I'm unwinding at the end of the day, is just going through all of the varying emotions can be a lot if I'm feeling extra sensitive to it. So having that nighttime routine has been very major for me. I'm very appreciative of it. I am really excited to have it in my life, and I'm really kind of loving the flow that I'm getting into right now. So I'm definitely sharing more little bits of that on Instagram, some of the little tips and tricks that I'm doing that are helping me find balance, especially while I have a goal to kind of shed some of the depression energy that I'm carrying right now, and other things in my life. I'm kind of sharing those tips because I don't really believe in being that person that like cuts everything out or has a really strict diet. Like, I've learned over the years what doesn't work for me, and how my body interacts with that. And I still have a life filled with wine. I still have a life filled with chocolate, French fries, those things, but it's the balance of it. And so, yeah, I'm sharing all of my tips and tricks for that on a regular basis. There will also be more podcast episodes coming. I am manifesting that we do a 2-episode a week kind of situation, maybe a solo episode on Monday and an interview on Thursdays is what I'm thinking. How that pans out, I'm not 100% sure, but that is what I'm speaking into the world right now. So if you guys have requests for stuff, let me know. But yeah, we are going to get into this juicy episode, all of the goodness, manifesting an Emmy nomination. I cannot even. Victor has so many fabulous things to share, and I hope you guys love this episode as much as I had fun recording it. I feel like Atlanta is almost like the happy medium between LA and Southern culture. Like, you still get people who are really involved and really intelligent and really want to like pursue things, but it's a slower pace. There's a little more of that, like, you're gonna wave to people in the neighborhood, like it's that hometown charm. So
I can see that. It's that balance. I've heard people say it is that balance. And with Georgia being so conservative, on one hand, people always say that Atlanta kind of feels a bit different because it has that balance of like city, and you got the arts and you got the culture, but you still have that southern charm. And so it's like a good balance for some people. So I get that.
It is. And I've talked about it with friends, and I'm just like, I don't want to raise my children in the same environment that I was raised in. Like, I just feel like the lack of getting to know other people's culture and experience and understanding, their world. I'm
Yeah.
lucky that I had the experience that I did at TPS, and to be a minority in that kind of situation and
Mm-hmm.
to just get to
Mm-hmm.
experience everybody else's life and
Mm-hmm.
to learn that people pin dollar bills on people for birthdays. That was like one of those things where you're like, wait, what is this?
Like, we don't do that in my culture.
Just little stuff where you're just
This is
getting to experience it,
new.
and everybody's like, this is so normal, and you're like, wait, what do you mean this is normal?
Right, you never heard of this before. What is wrong with you?
Exactly.
So how is that though? Because so many times as the global minority, as being African American, being somewhat the global minority, I don't think that we are anymore, even though we're still referred to as such. How is it being like in a black setting for like a white person? Like what is it like? I don't think I've ever asked that question. I don't think. Does it feel like no one cares? How is it? God damn
No.
it! How is it as a white person?
I think the difference is that I'm a white female and not a
Mm-hmm.
white male. I think white
Uh-huh.
males aren't used to like checking and entering a space in a little more caution and just being a part of it. Whereas a female, we're
Mm-hmm.
always adapting and listening and learning and second guessing ourselves because that's natural. I mean, I feel like I was so blessed that everybody just completely embraced me and encouraged me and nurtured me and
Yeah.
wanted me to succeed. And it was never like, I mean, for lack of like, I've had conversations where it's like, I didn't see color in the sense of like, I didn't see anything different. And I'm in a position where I don't need to see any different. Like, I'm the minority here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the palest one in the room. Even Jonathan over here is Hispanic and he's got more of a tan than I do. Like, but it was such, I had the best time. I don't feel like it was ever, it was never a bad situation for me. There's definitely been, one of my best friends is black and we have a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
conversations of just sharing her experience, and it's never,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
we're very open about what's going on and the experience that's happening and what she's feeling, and we have the conversations of, well, what if this is because you were a black woman raised in a predominantly white community and you're transferring some of that experience into this moment, like the psychology that just comes from how you're raised no matter what. We always
Oh yeah,
bring
the
our
trauma.
expectations into that moment.
I'll call it the trauma, the life
100%.
trauma that we don't know that we're walking around with. No matter where you come from, whatever your background is, like everybody has a bit of trauma that they kind of carry around that they don't deal with, or maybe some have, but you should know that it's there, and it really does affect some decision making. It really does.
Yeah. So, but no, that experience for me was incredible. And just,
Oh,
having
nice.
such wonderful people around me at any given time. And because of that, I think because I mean, if I was a white male, I can't say that it would have been the same thing to just have people
Yeah,
who want to
yeah,
invest in you and believe in you. Because I think
yeah.
we did an entire series run, and I was helping like the producers of TPS, like working for Willaroo and
Mm-hmm.
all of them, and getting to see all of
Yeah,
that super up close. I wouldn't have gotten that
yeah,
anywhere else. I learned
yeah,
a ton.
yeah, yeah. Oh, great. Great,
So
good for you.
for me, it wasn't bad, but I don't know. I feel like that might have been a different experience if I was a white guy, to be honest.
Maybe I don't know. It's like, what is a white dude doing here? What are you doing here, sir? But
Uh,
I'm glad that wasn't your experience, because I always wonder, like, does anybody feel like she should not be here? Or like, is there a black female that feels like, that space should be filled for safe for a black woman, and she should not be here? And because they feel that way, that they kind of like project that at you, that they felt that way. So the fact that you didn't have the experience is like amazing. So I'm glad
I
that you did not.
think part of that was also that I wasn't, it's a lot of who in that bubble, and I was like,
Hmm.
the fact that I was there was enough that people are like, how did you get a job? You don't know a single person in here. Like, the fact that
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
got the job out of that was enough that people were just like, okay, she's here
Hmm.
for a reason.
She's worked to get here, yeah, and she's doing it. It wasn't like nepotism.
So,
type
and
of
that job
situation.
got
Okay.
me a lot of other like random jobs from that. Like even people
Hmm.
in props would help me get jobs because my first round of
Yeah.
stuff there was helping kind of facilitate all of the chaos of all of the shows.
Hmm.
With as much as we did, I got to know all of the departments really well in a way that I don't feel like you
Yeah.
normally get to. And
Yeah.
so, but yeah.
That makes sense.
So, how did you end up in film and television, or did you start commercial? Like, what was your like entertainment entry point?
Well, I feel like I was supposed to be here for one because I've always been, and I don't know if this has something to do with being like a male from the LGBTQ community and being in like theater and stuff all the time, but my passion has always been like singing, acting, dancing, like the theater, anything that was about a production. I have, now that I look back over my life, it has always been there from like, but I was like, wait a minute, that's probably because I'm just LGBTQ, you know, more so than a passion because we kind of get like pulled into that realm of like the category that's what we're going to do. That's what happens when you from that when you're from the community. But it's always been a passion of mine, like film, television, characters, building characters, making characters. I remember being in school and being super excited, and now we can't do that anymore because now it's like culture appropriation and very inappropriate, but super excited around Thanksgiving time, and it was time to make like the Indian, the headdresses and things like that. I was like, oh my god, my Indian is going to be the best, you know. And just to look back, I was like, that was so wrong now, but you know, just the excitement of building that character and building characters, even being pilgrims or whomever, like I wanted it to be the best. So that art form has always been there. So going into college, I went to Fort Valley State University. The main thing I wanted to do, of course, get into the theater program. Get into the theater program. So when I getting into like hair and makeup was really secondary. It was my sister had a salon and she needed help at her salon and she was like, "Hey, you're sitting there, you're not doing anything. I need help. Come help, make some money." And it became natural to me because I was an artist. I started off as an artist so I can make and mold things with my hands. So that coloring and all those different things kind of like fit into that same realm of like, you know, building a character, making art. In my mind, it was always like making some type of art.
Mm-hmm.
So getting into film and television, I was just in the salon one day, and a friend of mine said Dreamgirls happened with Beyonce and Jennifer Hudson and Anika Noni Rose, but the original Dreamgirls were Shirley Lee Ralph, Jennifer Holliday, and oh my God, she's huge. Why can't I remember her name right now? I love her. Loretta Devine. So they were the original Dream Girls. So I had a friend of mine, Wendy Williams had just came out. It was like her first year. And a friend of mine called me from DC. He said, "Hey," he said, "I'm supposed to be doing Jennifer Holiday for the Wendy Williams show." And he said, "But she has some different events to do when she gets back to Atlanta. And she wants me to come. She loved me. She wanted me to come do her hair." He said, "I can't do it." He said, "I just can't travel down there for that." So I told her that you can do it. So that was like my first celebrity was Jennifer Holiday. So I was like, sure. He called me. I was like, sure, I can do it. She gave me a call. She told me what she wanted to do. And then she kind of slipped in that Shirley Ralph was doing a book tour. Defining a Diva, I think was the name of the book. And like she was like, she's doing a book tour and she wants to invite me along to do a few interviews. Can you come along to do the both of us? And I was like, yeah. You thought I was coming to do one original Dream Girls? I get two original Dream Girls. Perfect. So at that point, I became focused. Like I got the bug all over again. I was like, okay, I don't want to. I don't really want to go back to the salon setting. So how can I get into like film and television? And I started to voice, and this why I believe in manifestation, because I started to voice what it is I wanted and how I wanted and what industry I wanted to be in. Those things that sometimes we're afraid to say because people, like I was just saying, people will say, "Oh, that's not what you do. You have a salon full of clients. Like, what are you talking about? You're making $1,000, $2,000 a week in the salon. You're crazy." They want to go on the road and try to figure out and start your career all over again. And I was like, no, I'm not. So I was at a party one night. No, I was at a nightclub. It's a historic nightclub in LGBT nightclub in Atlanta called Bulldogs. Yes. So I was at Bulldogs and I was dancing. And this guy came up behind me. He was like dancing and we're doing our thing. And I was like, hey, we had a great time. And I was like, what is your name? He was like, you don't know me? And I was like, no, I don't know you. And he was like, I just came off of Project Runway. My name is this, and this. And I was like, oh, congratulations. I was like, I heard about the show, never seen it. And he was like, obviously. I was like, great job, though. And so he had a conversation at night, and he was like, what are you doing here? Like, the basics. And I was, of course, went through my whole spiel of what I wanted to do, where I wanted to take my career. And he was like, oh, I have a friend that does that. I'll give him your information. And so that's pretty much how it happened. They gave the information. The guy called one day when he needed somebody to work background. I came as a day player, and I've pretty much been working ever since.
So you started in background.
Yeah, I started in background. Well, I can't really claim that for the people who really did background, because we have some background soldiers who really went through the process.
Yeah.
I worked background 2 days. I got called for another show to do an actress who needed a fishtail braid, and the department head didn't know how to do one properly, and they called me to do that. So that was my first time. So the second time I got called to actually do an actor or actress that was on the show, number 3 on the call sheet, which is kind of like pretty big to be like, just 2 weeks ago you was at background, now you're doing like an actress. So it moved pretty fast. Then right after that, I got called to do an actress, Kiki Palmer, who had a certain type of extension in that I specialized in. And they were like, she's in Philadelphia, we're doing a movie, she has these extensions in, no one here knows how to do them, we heard that you do, can you fly out to do that? So here's the third call, now I'm being flown somewhere. So I get there, and the producer is pretty much saying to me, oh my God, since we've called you, all hell is like broke loose. And I was like, okay, so where is she? I can still do it. I can do it or whatever. She was like, no, do you know how to head a department?
Stop it.
Yeah, right. So I was like, no, this is like my third call. So of course I'm gonna be honest and go, no, because I know at this moment, this is huge. This could make or break my career if I do not know how to do this properly. And she said, that's fine. I can show you. She reached over and pulled out a script out of her bag, opened it up, and she said, this is Hair Department Head 101. Class is in session. Pay attention, young man. It was just like that. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on?
Guys, so if you don't know what a hair department head does, that he's in charge of all of the continuity, making sure everybody looks the same, in charge of the budgets, making sure that's a lot to go from one person to like everybody's face and hair on that screen.
Yeah, from designing to breaking down the scripts to breaking down the background, how many people I'm going to need the background, hiring employees, buying supplies, keeping up with receipts, all of the budget stuff.
But to do that in another city where you don't even have your resources.
I don't have my resources. I don't know anybody. I don't know what the beauty supply stores are. I don't know. I've never even heard of a Friends. I've never even heard of an Amy's. I've never even heard of a Cinema Secrets. And these are all the big LA shops that we order things from as hair and makeup artists. So I've never even heard of any of these things. So it was kind of like, okay, she gave me the rundown. And this is like an Emmy award-winning producer. So this is a huge producer. This is Queen Latifah is the head producer. Is one of her projects underneath her label. So this is like huge. So, and like, you see it, you're driving down the street. I'm driving down the street and I see Queen Latifah's face everywhere. Like, because she was doing the Queen campaign. And like, this is her project. This is something that she's producing. She's not acting in it or starring in it, but it's something that she's producing, something that she's paying for. So now I have like access to Queen Latifah's money, and I can either, do well with it or ruin it. So it was a lot of pressure. I did not sleep. I tell people to this day, I did not sleep for 30 days because I thought the project was 30 days, but I always felt like something was going to go wrong, or I always felt like I was missing something. So like my sleep at night would literally be naps. Like it was literally like naps. So I was like, oh my God, like, because every time I would go to sleep, I could not sleep. I was just thinking about the script. I was thinking about the change in the scenes. So it was like, it was terrible. But she knew it was terrible, and she knew it was like, I thought that I had like this great opportunity, and I thought that she had did me a favor, but she understood that she had just laid a burden in my lap, which I love her. Her name is Shelby Stone. And, she knew that she just put a burden in my lap, because at the end of the project, she said, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I promise I will look out for you for, and once people, no, she said, I promise I owe you one. And people always say, I've always been told that in film and television, when someone says to you, I owe you one, that's pretty much like money in the bank. Like they don't forget that it's like a verbal contract, and they take it seriously. And I was like, I didn't see it at the time, but when I told someone else, she told me she owed me one, but I felt like she did me. It was a great opportunity for me, so I don't feel like she owed me anything. And a friend of mine was like, no, she said she owe you one. Like that's huge in television. Like they're gonna call you again. And she called me again. She called me to do a project in LA. She was like, listen, I have a movie out in LA. I told you I owe you one, but this isn't the one I owe you. She said it's a bull crap project. She didn't use crap, she used the other word. And she said, listen, we can't pay for your lodging. She said, you're gonna have to come work as a local. She said, we can't pay for your lodging. She said the budget is $2,000. So out of all the supplies and everything you need, we only have $2,000. Do not go over. Wigs, everything included. The show that I'm on now, just to give you a tidbit, on Legacies, the cheapest wig I think I've purchased was $2,000. The main actress wig is $9,000.
I always want to text you about who's in a wig. Every time I watch, I want to text you and be like, I have questions. I'm going to start texting you, honestly.
I never tell. I would tell you, but I would never tell on this podcast. Like, as one character is obviously in a wig, but some people, they can't tell. They were like, is that a wig today? Isn't that a wig that she has on? So, and they're not that comfortable with me telling for some reason. I was like, it's film and television. A wig is a wig is a wig is a wig. And sorry, hold on, let me stop this.
So, I mean, it's more, I feel like Claire posted about her wig from the originals the other day, about Precious on her stories.
She called it Precious, like, yes. But it's okay.
Somebody, who is it? I think it was Karina talked about it years ago when, I don't remember what season it was, but she was talking about how they brought Cammy's character back in and you guys put her in the wig too. And it's like, I think from our perspective, if I was an actress, I'd be like, that's 50 more minutes of sleep I can get. Put a wig on my head, please.
Yeah. Yes. Well, that's why we do it primarily. Production loves it because it cuts down on those ready times. The base camp PA, of course, loves it because, you can get your actors ready and on to breakfast and on to different things much faster because we're doing it. Like once someone is in makeup, if I don't have another actor in my chair, 9 times out of 10, I prep the wig the night before. Once you're in makeup, I'm styling the wig however that's the final style from however I said it the night before. So once it actually goes on the person or the actress, that takes every bit of 15 to 20 minutes and they're out of there compared to an hour-long blowout or hour and 30-minute type of hairstyle. So it cuts down time tremendously for production. Also, they love it when doing what we were just talking about with reshoots and inserts. Like you can put that same wig on another person. shoot them from the side and the back. You think it's the same person. She doesn't even have to be there, you
Yep.
know? Or if an actress gets sick, you can shoot the other person's coverage, put the stand in the wig, shoot from the back, get all the other person's coverage, and then, get the other actress who's gotten sick coverage at a later date. So they love that.
But there's also hair health too. Like I mean, I shoot constantly, but still, I'm like, I only want to put that much heat on my hair.
Yeah, yeah. I have actresses now who have hair that is down their back, almost touching their butt because they've been doing the show now for 2 or 3 years, no, 3 or 4 years, and haven't had like heat on it. We just trim, condition, and go, or they use trim Olaplex and go, or whatever, and they love their hair. Like I have an actress now who natural curls are like so beautiful, who that she's been blowing it out for years, but now since we haven't been putting heat on it, like her hair is like back to its natural state, and she was like, my hair hasn't looked like this in years. So, and anytime I talk about going to do anything else or maybe doing a different project, or doing a project over the break, the first thing she asks, hold on a minute, you're coming back, right? Because no one has taken care of my hair like that. And I was like, I don't think it's me taking care of your hair. I think it's the fact that you're in a wig that, your hair health has completely changed.
I want to
Yeah.
bookmark that because I want to go back to you talking about going to other projects. But so you went and did the indie film. Did you run
Yes.
and you ran the department on that? What did you do
Yes.
after that?
So
Because
that was,
you just went
oh
straight
my
up
God.
the ladder.
Straight to the top, straight to the top. So it's yeah. So and it pissed a lot of people off too. Like I went from being like this guy that everybody thought was like cool to this person because people didn't feel like I deserved it. Like they didn't know like why I was getting these projects and why was I leading these departments. And they was like, he has no experience, he doesn't know what he's doing. Like why does he keep getting these jobs? And it was like my reputation in amongst my peers started to like plummet.
Oh
People would
gosh.
say, yeah, people would say things and didn't know why they didn't care for me, because it was just an air that was getting passed on from, one person or a few people who thought that I didn't deserve it. And once my name came up, it was more of a, like, like, yeah, because they forgotten why they did not like me, but it was like inherited energy of why they didn't care for me. And I started to meet other people in the streets or on other projects, and they would say, "Oh, you're not like at all what I thought you would be like." Because I think, yeah, so because I think because when someone gets something so fast that they didn't go through the process, and I've experienced this with people who've gotten things pretty fast and they go through the process, a certain air comes with that, and a big head comes with that because you've gotten it so fast. So that humbleness and I know, but I'm always like chill. Like I was like, oh, that was great, but on to the next. What are you doing? Like, and congratulations for whatever you're doing. But that was not how I was received in amongst my peers for quite some time until people actually start to get to know me, and then those little soldiers kind of went out and changed the narrative for me. And I can say that because once people got to know me and started to work for me, then when they would go to other projects and my name would come up and someone would say something that was against me, they would defend me and they would go, that's not, no, that's not my experience at all. I don't no, I don't know who you're talking about, but that's not correct. And they would come back and tell me, someone said this, and I had to let them know that, you're not like that, and they should come. I was like, well, give them my name, have them come over here and work, because I could provide employment for other people, and they would come over and work, and they would say to me, oh my God, I didn't think you was gonna be anything like I thought. I was like, why would you think that? Because it was an inherited narrative. Isn't it amazing? Isn't it crazy?
I feel like the worst part about that is that you have to reaffirm that for yourself too. Like you have to choose to not believe it and ignore it and not let that
Yeah.
infect your environment. Which,
Well,
to
I knew
whatever
it
degree,
wasn't
when you're in
true.
a film bubble, you're in such a bubble for like, 3, 5, 6 months. You don't talk to anybody else anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah, I knew it wasn't true, and I kind of learned early on what was being said. So I began to. I think it kind of helped me to not become what they thought that I would become, because I was on a mission at that point to prove to everybody that, it's all chill over here. It's all good over here. It's all love. It's all like creativity. And I pride myself, I would have some people come work for me and they wouldn't like that I would give others opportunities that they felt as though they should have went through a certain process. But I'm that leader and I always say I'm a leader, not a boss, because a boss is to me is someone who bosses people around, and a leader is someone who lead by example. So as a leader, I always wanted other creatives to feel the freedom to create. I will always like ask them to give me their ideas. What do they think about certain things, and how do you think the hair should look for this particular thing, instead of me coming to them saying this is what we're doing. Like, I love to collab and and pinch off other artists, and younger than me, older than me, 'cause everybody got something to give from their different experiences, so, and different walks of life and different areas. Some are from Detroit, some are from all we all look different from different places. So I like to kind of like mesh all of those things together and see what happens.
I think that's the one thing that I miss the most and has kind of come a little bit more full circle for me. But when I left film, I didn't realize how much of the creative collaborative process that I mean, I didn't get to experience as much being in the department I was, but it's so much more fun when it's how do we bring this full vision to life? And it's what I love about film and television is there's so much detail and so much of the experience that goes in that. Yes, you have an actor and they're a beautiful, wonderful human, but your first experience of them is always going to be their hair, makeup, and their costume and the production design that they are standing in.
Yes. Yeah. That's what that's what people see when they watch, That's the first thing even when you think about projects like the Titanic, like the first thing you see is the pan up Rose's dress onto her umbrella, onto her hat, so it's like a whole moment before words are even spoken that, it's kind of like, whoa, like I'm all in now, If it's something from a sunrise that captures certain actors from sort of waking up out of the bed, the pan of the sun through her hair onto her face as she turn around, good morning, beautiful. Like these are the different things that kind of like bring you all in at first. So they're very important, like very, very important.
I love that.
Yes.
Okay. Pause before I lose my brain here. It is, well, I feel like we've covered some of my questions, but I want to touch on, because you asked me what it was like to be a white person working in a predominantly black environment. I'm curious for you, if as being a black man, if there was, I don't know if there was like, I don't think expectations is the word, but was there did you feel like you had to prove yourself in order to feel like people were like comfortable with letting you do white people hair? Because I know that you said it before that like there's a serious lack in the ability for white people to do black people hair. Like I had London explain. It was like, please explain to me how your hair works, because it's a different texture. We talk about how this is going to take you 5 hours. My hair process is different. So can you explain this to me?
Well, it's kind of, oh my God, what is the proper word? Is it a double conundrum? Is the word that I'm looking for? Because catch-22. However, how those things mesh together, how those phrases mesh together is so. Let me explain what I'm talking about, because I'm rambling right now. Okay, as a black man doing white hair, walking into a room in a production meeting as a black man, I don't feel as though I entered the room as a black man at first. I think I was more so focused on trying to convince people that my tiny resume could suffice for a brand that was so big as Vampire Diaries, because Vampire Diaries was so huge in the Georgia area, because it was like the first major, show that kind of like took off like this huge fame, and it became like an entity of its own. And so walking in trying to prove that I could, design and deliver and work the budgets out for that and keep up with those moving pieces was like my first, frontal of my mind. So I think the black man portion took a back burner to like actually getting in the door. Okay. Then once I got in the door, for some reason, I don't know if it's unspoken, but for some reason I think that we're expected to know how to do white hair more so than white people are expected to know how to do black hair. And I'll explain. Because in school, and I've said this before, we're given a mannequin that has bone straight hair. And we learn how to add curl by doing like perms, and we learn coloring on it, all these different things. There's no mannequin that has hair like mine that is set before me, even as a black man. So I know it's not set before like a Caucasian male or female in a cosmetology school. All of the mannequins have straight, long Caucasian hair.
Well, that's great for all the
Period.
curly headed people.
Yeah. So even if you like a Caucasian person with curls, like it kind of get lost in the sauce. That's why now that we have curl products for all colors across the board, because people are starting to realize that even Caucasian people need, products for curly hair, because they do have curly hair as well, and they don't have to be Jewish to have curly hair. Like it's like, come on. So, so it's like a whole thing now. So it's a different understanding for it now. So that black man element was not at the forefront of my mind, although it started to bother me later. I would get like some side eyes, like when a Caucasian actress was walking to the trailer and didn't expect for a black man to be there, and it was kind of like, oh, okay, well, but it went from like, oh, okay, to like, oh, okay, if you're here you must be fabulous, darling. Because me being from the LGBT community, LGBTQ XYZ, I always say, because we keep adding letters every year, community that is always kind of like assume that you must be fabulous. So I can say I got a pass that kind of trumped the black card. You know what I mean? From that, from my experience, I can't speak for others, or even like straight black people or a straight black woman. Like I'm sure her experience might be completely different. I'm sure it is, but I kind of got that felt. But I did feel as though like I would see other hairstylists that would come to set, and they would be in like jeans and a t-shirt, and they would come for work, and they came comfortable for work because they had work to do. I never felt as though I could show up like that. I always felt like I had to be like dressed to the nines, like I had to look professional, I had to be professional, I had to dress for success, because I've always been taught to dress for success, because I kind of came from that southern brand of black people. I always call it the Martin Luther King brand of black people, where everybody's like dressed and suited and booted. That was how I was raised. If you want to be successful, if you want to be taken seriously, you have to look like that. So I always thought if I put on some sweats to come to work, that I wouldn't be taken seriously. So I did feel as though as a black person, I couldn't let my guard down and just come to work comfortable if I wanted to. So that was the thing at one point. And it became also taxing on me year after year, being a part of the Vampire Diary brand and being at the originals and then going from the originals to legacy, to go into a production meeting year after year, episode after episode, and I was still the minority. It wasn't like half and half, and Julie Plec is wonderful when it comes to like giving opportunity to women and people of color. So you would have directors that would come in that was of different colors. You would have directors coming in that was male, female. So, I would feel comfortable to see who the nigga director for the episode would be, because it would be somebody that looked like me. But I remember her saying once, and this was like the first season, first episode of Legacies, and she was directing, she would always direct the first episode. And I walked up to her. She was taking off her headset and she was about to go give some directives for something or to someone. And she said, and I said to her, Julie, I just wanted to say to you, thank you for building a cast that was like multicolored, and male and female. And she said, instead of her taking and said, well, thank you, and receiving it that way, she looked around and said, yeah, but it needs to be reflected behind the scenes as well. And she walked off. Like, she, in return, kind of implemented to me that there's still work to do, and that she recognized that there was still work to do. And I was like, I think I'm in the right place, working for the right person, you know. So I've felt comfortable in spaces when sometimes I did not feel comfortable, you know. When, like I said, when no executives or no department heads kind of look like me, so it can become, you know, taxing sometimes, I would say. But I know that me being there, I can't leave and go to a project that I guess I could, but t- for me to leave and go to a project where everybody looks like me, I feel like I just gave up a seat to where I can make some changes more. But yeah, so that black man thing, I'm not unaware of it. And like I said, my experience has been different since I've been here, but that has not always been the case, you know, on other projects. I recently did a movie where a sound guy did not know that I was listening to him, and he was talking about a black actress on camera and referring to an animal that she kind of looked like. And I had to like turn that guy in and start a whole big union thing and start a whole big production thing. And it was one of those, I was in a position where it was like, do you say something so there can be some change, or do you not say something because you don't want to be looked at as like the troublemaker? And it was right before, it was 2019, so it was before 2020 and everything that happened in 2020. But it was like, so what do you do as a black person? Like, I don't think people sometimes I don't think people realize how hard it is to even step up for one another in those spaces, because you could be seen as, you know, a troublemaker, or somebody who's always taking offense to something because you are black, or they didn't mean it like that. So, you know, I had to sit with myself and say, hey, did he actually say that? Was it racist? I had to ask myself these questions over and over and over before even saying anything. And to the fact where I looked over in the midst of me like contemplating what to do, I looked over to my right, and there was a makeup artist who, you know, she was of age. She had been in the industry for quite some time. She was a black lady, and tears was running down her face. hmm So she had heard the exact same thing, and she wasn't. I don't think she was going to say anything, you know, because I think because she had been in the industry for so long, and she had, you know, she saw how hard it was to be in her position and to get to her position. I think that she was probably contemplating the same things that I was contemplating. So, like, you don't want to be looked at as a troublemaker. Or did I, you know, and you have to ask yourself before you start any conversation or any type of problems when it comes to something like this. You have to make sure that you heard what you heard. You know, it's kind of like a sexual harassment charge, you know, for a male or female. The same thing. Like, did he mean what I thought he meant when he put his hand on the small of my back? Or, you know, when he called me sugar, is he southern, he just called everybody sugar? Or was he being like, you know, it's a hard place to be in. I don't think people realize how tough that is for the victim at that time, you know, like, oof, you know. And if it also, will they believe me? And, you know, people came back and asked me after that situation, producers who came back and asked, thank God I was working for like these wonderful producers at the time. But one of the producers came and asked me, he said, okay, he said that I forgot his excuse. And he said he was saying this because of this, or he wasn't talking about me, he was talking about this person. And I said, no. I said, that's not what he said. And that person was on the monitor. So to give you like to kind of give you like some insight on what happened. So the director was in the scene, and she had came to like give directions to two actresses, a black one and a white one. So at the time, the camera had, you know, what a director is doing, giving directions. Camera A and B camera takes their time to like zoom in on like each actress to make sure that, you know, the lighting is right, the setup is right, while the director is in that given direction. That's the way everybody make the adjustments. Camera, you know, hair and makeup comes in and make their adjustments, costume make their adjustments. So when the guy said what he said, the sound guy it was on the Caucasian actress. And he said to her, "Oh my God." No, he didn't say this. There was someone standing beside him that said, "Oh my God, the camera loves her." And he said, "Yeah, she's a beauty." And once the B camera zoomed in on the black actress, he says, "Unlike this one, looking like a monkey in the zoo."
Stop it.
I know. I know. So, and then, then it was like a full, pull out to like, we can see the white actress, the black actress, and then the director, who was also Caucasian woman. And he said that, he was talking about, I think he said that he was talking about the director at the time. And I was like, no, he was not. Because I was watching. We're sitting right there behind the monitors. And I just happened to, as they was panning in, that's my opportunity to see what adjustments that I need to make. Because we were downstairs, we were in a house, we were on location. So I don't want to keep running up the stairs if I don't have to. This is how I know that, for sure who he was talking about. Because I'm in front of the monitors, very, very close, picking out little things, to see if, okay, should I go change this? Do I need to change that? And I wanted to see before going upstairs what the African American actress looked like before going upstairs to make the adjustments. And of course, like I said, they pan in on the African American actress. I look closely to see what I need to see. And at that moment, he says what he says. And I was like, wait a minute, did he just say? And I thought that he might not have said it. I was like, no. I was just talking to this guy yesterday. We were just hanging out at a different location. We were our setups are right beside each other. His daughter was on set. I love his daughter. I was getting things, coffee and stuff for her when I went to Starbucks. Like, we love each other. What do you mean? He did not say this. Victor, stop it. He did not say this until I looked to my right and I saw that the one actress, not one makeup artist, was crying. And I looked, to my left to see my key hairstylist, and she was there and her legs was like shaking. And I said, "Did you hear? Did you?" She was like, "Yes." She said, "Yes." And I don't think he realized how loud, because he was in the sound department, and so he had big phones on. I don't think he realized headphones on. I don't think he realized how loud he said it. So, yeah. So it was a difficult place to be in. So that was a recent thing that I've experienced as a black man, more so than, me having to convince people that I can do what I can do when walking into a room. Or
but the
do what I can
fact
do
that
when
you
doing
said
hair.
something protects even more people than you can even imagine. Because I can think of a production that was in place years ago, and everyone knew that the first AD was making crude comments about everyone, and they did nothing. And it's a TV show. It's not even a movie. I think sometimes productions like, it's not worth it. There's a week left. We don't have time to retrain somebody. We'll just get through it. Which sucks for everyone that has to endure that. But I had a friend go work as a day player and had it happen to her on the one day that she was there, and she's already a sexual assault victim. And they're like, "Do you want to report it?" She's like, "Hell no. I know how this shit goes. Nothing happens." Like,
yeah. Wow. You see what I mean? Well, luckily, this guy was fired. They called me and they said, we can't fire him, tomorrow. He will work tomorrow. And then after tomorrow, he will go and we will look for somebody else over the weekend or fly somebody else over the weekend. And we were in Pittsburgh. So this is a very heavily union protected town. Like, this wasn't like Georgia which is a right to work state. So in order to fire somebody in Pittsburgh or New York, you really have to go through some paperwork. You really have to be ready to battle with these unions who are there to protect people. But, I was ready for the battle, and I thank God these producers were ready for the battle as well. And that guy was not there on Monday. He came to me on that Friday because he did have to work that Friday. He said, "Victor, I didn't say that." And I was like, "Yeah, you said that." And I was like, "Yes, you did. You said it." And one of the guys that, the one who originally made the comment that the camera loves her, and then when he made his response of, unlike this one, looking like a monkey in the zoo, when he made the guy that was who originally said the camera loves her came to me the next day, he was like, Fee, I don't, are you sure? I'm not sure. And I was like, what? So if you're not sure, what was his response? Tell me, what was his response if you're not sure? And he was like, I just don't want to get in it. And I was like, yeah, you just want it to die down and you don't want to get in it. And I get it. I get all of that. I said, neither did I. But I was like, if you can't tell me what was his response, and if you can tell me you're not sure if that was what he said, what did he say? Tell me, what did he say then? He was talking to you. What did he say? And he couldn't tell me. And I was like, exactly.
That's cool.
Like, you just want this to, you just want it to die down. And I understand that. No one wants to be asked these questions. No one wants to go through these type of interviews. No one wants to be called by, the PR people from Amazon, because it was an Amazon project. So, Amazon is very new when it comes to producing movies and television. So, like, it was a huge thing, huge interviews, lots of phone calls, lots of people asking questions, times and frames and all of these different things. And I just happened to know the time frame as well that it happened, and I could give them the exact time frame, and they roll camera back to that time frame, and guess who was on the monitor? The black actress. So it's kind of like, yeah, he's not lying. This happened just like he said it happened. Difficult place to be in. That was the most difficult thing for me that I can think of to date as a black man in film and television. More so than someone not hiring me because they can't think I can do black hair or whatever. But when I talk about that catch-22, here's the thing. As a black person, though, I have experience from my own people because I have done a brand for so long that is consistent of mostly Caucasian characters that I can't do black hair.
That's so, I mean, that seems so crazy to me because the first show I met you on, and the only project you and I have ever worked together, you have styled predominantly black actresses. So the fact that is now.
They forgot fast so quickly, right? I was like, what do you mean? I started out on Single Ladies. I started out on, oh my God, what was the name of the other show? But it was on BET. And then TPS, Tyler Perry Studios, from there. Then Greenleaf, which is our own project from Oprah Winfrey's productions. So to be with the Vampire Diary brand for so long, for 6 years now, 7 years now, some people will say that I'm known for doing Caucasian hair. I know.
Can't win them all, can you?
Place to be in, man. You cannot win them all. That's what I said. I was like, Vic, listen, you just can't win them all. You just have to be grateful. It was kind of like with people when I got these positions so fast, and people had, they said what they said about me in that moment. You just have to kind of like take it with a grain of salt, keep it moving. And I try to give everybody a little grace because I just know some ideals are just picked up along the way in conversations, and it's like tumbleweeds, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger as they go. And I just have to kind of like, I'm so busy that I just have to like, whatever. When it comes to me, I'll deal with it when it sits. I deal with things as it sits in front of me. Like once it hits my plate. If I'm ever asked in an interview, I see here that mostly your shows are Caucasian shows. Are you comfortable with doing black hair? Do you have a portfolio that have examples of black hair? I'll deal with it in that moment. But other than that, I can't walk around thinking, oh my God, my own people think I don't know how to do their hair. Like, no, it's too much to carry.
That's true.
It's too much to carry.
True. Nobody has time for that. Just one day at a time. So, okay, two questions in that regard. One,
sure.
You're Emmy nominated. How did you find out that you were Emmy nominated? How does that now? I mean, I feel like it would be on social media, and sometimes we find important things out when it's reported to the rest of the world. But
yeah.
How did
okay. So, okay, I was interviewing for the Vampire Diary brand, and of course, I didn't have enough credits. This, like I said, this is a huge show, and this was Warner Brothers, and most of the production companies I had worked for at the time were BET, Tyler Perry Studios. And it's kind of its own world. And of course, the things that I had done with Queen Latifah's company, Flavor Unit, big up to Flavor Unit. They changed my life. Thank you so much, Queen Latifah. Dana, Miss Dana Owens is her real name, for those of you who don't know. So I was very grateful for those projects, but I was interviewing for this Warner Brothers project, the Vampire Diary brand, and they did not think that I had enough credits. And I was speaking with one of the producers, and she was like, you came, you day played over here, and you filled in for us to do, Phoebe Tonkin's hair, and she loves you, and of course she wants you to come back and be the department head. And Joseph, who's number one, of course he's supportive of you and wants you to be the department head. But she was like, we trying to get it like a studio approval, and she was saying to me, just right now, it just don't look like we can get you approved by the studio because you don't have the credits. But let's go back a bit to Shelby Stone, who says, I owe you one. So Shelby calls me after doing the bullcrap project. She calls me and she says, has Lawrence called you yet? And Lawrence Davis is a huge hairstylist, been Emmy nominated before. I know, Lawrence, right?
He's
done
the
Tyra
sweetest.
Banks. He won an Emmy for that, for doing, I think, the Tyra Banks show or American Next Top Model. I can't remember which one. And she said, has he called you yet? And I was like, no, he hasn't called me. And she was like, I told him he has to call you. And I don't think at the time he wanted to hire me. I think he had in mind who he wanted to hire because, to be fair, this was a period project and it was for HBO. So it was a huge project. And he wanted somebody that was versed in doing period styles for 1920s,
Is this
30s,
for Bessie?
and 40s. This is for Bessie. Yeah. So he calls me once she calls him, and I think she calls him and is like, listen, call him now. I owe him a favor. You're gonna call him. So he calls me. He was like, hey baby, how are you? You know how Lawrence calls everybody baby. I was like, I'm good. He was like, yeah, I want you to come along and do Bessie with me. And I was like, okay, sure. He was like, it's 1920. Are you first with that? And I was like, I can be. I said, Lawrence, listen, I can do anything. Like, give me a minute. When does it start? He was like, in 2 weeks. I was like, oh crap. So I was like, okay, I got you. So he told me to call this guy named Monty. We call him Monty. His real name is Montgomery Shue. I called Monty. He's the king of period hairstylists. And Monty was like, okay, come on my house this weekend and let's just do a quick little workshop. And I was like, like, what do you mean? One-on-one? Like these classes, now mind you, these classes cost anywhere from like $1,500 to like $2,500 to take these classes. This guy was offering it to me for nothing. He was just like, come over on the weekend, bring a bottle of wine. I don't have anything to do. I feel like being creative. So it was like the stars were aligning. I was like, okay, well, how much does it cost? And he was like, cost? He was like, no. He was like, I'm working on it too. I want you to, know what you're doing. So I want to see what you can do. So for free, like he showed me 101. We went from 1800s, and he was only supposed to be showing me like 1920 to 1946. We went from like 1890 something all the way, because he wanted me to see where it all came from, like the basis of it, all the way through like 1970. So
That's got to be
it
the
was
coolest experience, though.
Oh my God. It was like he just cracked his head open and threw it all at me. Like, and as an artist, to be in his wig room and you see like 500 and 600, 700 wigs and all different colors and, different types of lace and different skin tones and threads, and it was just like overload. Like I was just taking it all in. Like I had like a panic attack. I was like taking it all in. But I retained all the information. We did basically, we killed it. It was a very easy project for me because I think I had that crash course. So it was very beneficial. And I was fast forward to that being over a year later and interviewing for the Vampire Diaries brand, and they telling me that, unless, and this producer says to me, unless you're like nominated for an Emmy or something within the next week or two, I don't see this happening.
You have manifested some of the craziest stuff. I'm just going to have a list after this. How do I... We need a lesson in Victor's abundance energy.
I'll tell you, have you seen the 369 book?
Nope, but I'm going to write that down right now.
So let me grab it for you so you can see what I'm talking about. So I'm a big believer in Project 369.
Okay.
And it's Project 369. I am the creator of my own reality.
Okay.
And you can get it at Instagram at Mind369Project. But this book is amazing, right? So it explains to you the power of the number 369. I've been doing this for quite some time. And you start your morning off. This is a new one because I got some new things to manifest. And you start your morning off by, with 3. And then you write it down 3 again. And by mid-afternoon, you'll write it down in the form of 6 and a 9. By the end of the day, you write these things down. And it just helps you practice manifestation. So, because I'm a big believer in it. Like you can't tell me what's not going to happen. If I want it to happen, it's going to happen. Like, we're going to do it. Like, I just put it out there. I believe it's going to do it, and it's going to happen. And I was like, oh. And I just said randomly when she said that. I was like, yeah, I'm going to have an Emmy I'm going to have an Emmy nomination. Yeah, by the end of the week. Yeah, sure. But I was saying it in a way of being, like, sarcastic. Like, okay. But I can remember hanging up the phone with her. And I was sitting at my bar, at a bar top, my little downtown Atlanta apartment at the time, my little 1-bedroom studio. And I remember putting down the phone and saying, well, that could happen. I don't know how it's going to happen. I was like, well, that could happen. So, like, not even a few days later, Lawrence called. And he said, are you sitting down? And I was like, no. He was like, sit down. And I was like, okay. I'm thinking like, oh my God. Because I'm thinking that the person who originally called Lawrence for me to day play for him, the guy that I was dancing with in the nightclub, I'm thinking that, oh my God, something must be wrong with Anthony. Like, this is about to be something terrible. He said, do you have a computer? And I was like, yeah, I have a computer, but my head is like pounding right now. Like, so I can't figure out where it is. He's like, just go grab your computer for me. I want you to look something up for me. And I was like, okay. All right. Oh, Jesus Christ, what is going on? So I pull up my computer. He said, check your email. He said, pull up your email. He said, I'm about to email you something. And I see it there plain as day. It was like, HBO, congratulations. You have been just nominated for an Emmy for Bessie. And I was like, you have got to be kidding me. I literally took my laptop and I just closed it down. I slammed it down. Like, oh my God. Like, what do I do with this? And so I started like, it wasn't a scream. I tell people it was more like a squeal. It was more like a... It's the weirdest scream. It probably was the weirdest scream you probably heard before in your life. Because I was trying to scream, but something was like suppressing it some way. I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And he started laughing. And he was like, congratulations. He called me baby. Congratulations, baby. That's what I was saying about the sexual harassment. Because some people just say baby all the time, Yeah. So you just never know. So he was like, congratulations, baby. He's like, you're on your way. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, what does this mean? How does this work? And he was like, click on the email. It'll tell you everything. He said, I got some more stuff to get together right now. And he said, but I'm going to throw a big party. And of course, you're one of the honorees because we're nominated together. And I was like, oh, okay, thank you. Oh, okay. All right. Thank you. But in that moment, so I open back up the email and I click on the email and it was like a full, like I had got assigned an assistant. And like they was like, hi, my name is such and such and such and such. I will be your assistant, guiding you through the award process. And I was like, what is the award process? So there's like banquets. When you're nominated, there's like banquets and governor's balls and like a showcase 2 nights. It's like a whole week leading up into the Emmys. Okay. So I'm thinking to myself, like, oh my God, like what am I gonna do? He was like, we're gonna get you a car, we're gonna get you so you get assigned a limo, you get assigned an assistant, you get assigned, a hotel, and they want to know if you need any assistance with what you're gonna wear. So like, they were like, have you ever had a tuxedo design? Are you planning on purchasing one? You're gonna wear something custom? And I was like, of course I'm wearing something custom. Are you crazy?
It's very you.
Macy's? Like, I'm not going to Macy's. Like, what are you crazy? Like, I have a friend who was a fashion designer who was on Project Runway. Of course I'm wearing something that's designed. But, in that moment, I will tell you this. I went straight from like celebrating to I have to call this producer back. I have what I need now. And it was like, guess what? And she was like, hi, Victor. I said, have you guys filled the position yet? And she was like, no. She was like, we're still going through the approval process. They haven't gotten back with us on you. She said, you thought of another credit or something you want to add to the project? And I was like, yeah, I just got nominated for an Emmy for Bessie. And she was like, you got to be kidding me. And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, I don't want to like jinx or anything. She's like, congratulations. She was like, welcome to the Vampire Diaries. Welcome to the originals. She was like, I'm sure they're going to accept you after this. And they did. She sent everything in. I had to have somebody. She said, so send me another resume. So I had to call somebody, get them to do another resume that's now said Emmy nominated Victor Jones, So I had the whole setup had to change, even the format and what it looked like and the paper, everything, because it had to be a little bit more formal now. So I sent that in, everything went through, and that was that.
So wait, who do you call to get a resume? Like, what does that difference look like?
So when you're nominated, like I actually asked someone to like that was nominated to see me what theirs look like, like how does that change? Because it goes from being like a regular credit list to now the format, because it's the Television Academy. So now you have like the Television Academy format that you get to use. So it was like presented from the Television Academy is a different type of letterhead that they'll give you that's from the Television Academy to kind of like prove that your Emmy nomination is real. And you kind of go from you kind of go from there, and you kind of redo the credits list underneath. But because the format is different, it doesn't look like a credit list. Like it's all kind of like spread out like this, like in blocks now, more so than straight up and down. Because the Television Academy thing is at the top, the letterhead is at the top, and then along the side panel is the actual picture of an Emmy, all down the side, and so then the block formats coming down from there looks completely different. Yeah,
that's so interesting. I've never thought about that.
I know everything kind of changed. Your rates changed, everything. Like, so the type of money you ask for changes, your accommodation changes when putting you up in certain places and sending you to certain places. Like it's a bit of a difference. Yeah.
Union at that point?
I was not even union at that point. Didn't even qualify. Didn't even
nominated for an Emmy and can't join a union.
Yeah, and can't even join a union. Isn't it amazing? It was crazy, but here goes back to what people were saying about me originally. Like, it's kind of like, how? Why? Like, there's not enough credits. Like, how did he even get that project? Like, how did, he doesn't even have enough days. Like, he's only done a 30-day movie here and a 30-day movie there. And, TPS, it runs so fast, But one thing I can say about TPS, because we do and this helped me a lot. I have my qualms about TPS and in its formats and how fast it shoots or whatever. I have my concerns. But what's helpful is you can get so many credits in a short amount of time, because you're doing a full television show. I think Half and Have Nots, maybe 22 episodes will be filmed in 6 weeks. So in 6 weeks, you can get 9 months worth of credits, something that usually takes you 9 months. And then you have If Loving You Is Wrong right behind that, and then the other 3 little 30-minute shows that was like 16 episodes. So you got 22 from Have and Have Nots. You have 22 credits from If Loving You Is Wrong. Then you have I think that was 16 episodes, each of those 30-minute running. So they're like 16 and 16. So here we go now with what 32, that's 32. So you have abundance of credits within like a 2 or 3 month period on top of an Emmy nomination. So it just made my resume look so much, it just stacked it up so much better. So that was a blessing as well, but it was just a lot in a shorter period of time. So I can understand why people were somewhat upset. Like, I've been doing this for a long time, and here's this kid that came through and was able to achieve, a lot really fast. But I try to like hold them up. I understand where they're coming from with that, but I try to hold them up and think about the people that came before me and kind of like hold up that honor of how they want things run, maintaining my dignity when it comes to certain things and implementing certain rules and standing up for certain things like I did in Pittsburgh. Like I try to really like pay for my seat by doing things behind the scenes that a lot of people don't see, standing up for certain rates and standing up for certain accommodation when it comes to my people that a lot of people just don't see. But I do that in honor for those who came before me, because I understand that I'm standing on their shoulders. Like, okay, I got this fast, but I was able to get this fast because you did it the long way or you did it the slow way, So, and you made it a better path from oneself. So I won't just trash that experience because with my own ego. No, this has nothing to do with me. I stand in honor of them.
You've been on such a crazy journey. I mean,
I know.
That's amazing. But I think at the same time, like when you're one of the things I think I saw and you've probably seen is that people who've been doing the job for a while are able to spot potential in new people really quickly. And if they see the potential, they're willing to do whatever they like. I had not the same, but a similar experience to you with the first movie that I ever did after I quit my job and my 9 to 5. And I went from being a PA to being essentially their fill-in second AD. And that was what I had right before TPS, but that was the first, I had a first who understood and saw that potential. And I think being able to stay humble, and that was something that I wanted to talk about too, is that, it's I think it's really easy in that environment to feel so detached or to feel the energy that could exist but isn't actually real about anything to do with anybody's job. Like all of these jobs are so grounded, but we idealize them. It sounds like you've stayed really humble with that, but I know that some of that's been a journey for you too.
It has, because I always tell people that there is a thin line between confidence and ego. And as a department head, excuse me, especially what did you say, as a black department head, as an LGBTQ department head, like I carry all these different things to be it, that I need a certain amount of confidence sometimes to go into a room, but confidence and ego kind of teeters a certain thin line. But when I have to stand up for certain things because I know they are right more so than what I want because Emmy nominated Victor Jones more, no, no. I have to really like decipher between what it is that's, what is it that is very necessary for people to be treated correctly, fairness, also to create a realm where people can grow and elevate and fight for them if they're working hard to get certain positions behind me. It can kind of like teeter a line of like, you have to kind of ask yourself, am I doing this because this is necessary for this process to move forward, or am I doing this because I just want these things as Victor? So that's where you kind of like have to think of yourself in third person. Okay, and even think of yourself in third person, like what kind of ego goes behind that? So it's like a whole bunch of work that's you have to constantly do mentally. But because I'm so engulfed, I think, with my family and with my kids and stuff, that I'm able to kind of stay in that world more so than this one. I still see this as work. Of course, this is a dream of mine, and I enjoy it, and I have passions there. But to keep myself grounded I have to constantly remind myself that I'm standing on the shoulders of, like, I would not be here if that wasn't for Charles Gregory. I would not be here if that wasn't for a Ken Walker. Like, I just wouldn't be here if it wasn't for a Carol Sheed or any of those black people who really went through it, like, have some horror stories. I'm so lucky that I was able to even hear some of those horror stories and actually pass them on, what not to do and what to do. There was a crazy story about a makeup artist, African American lady, who was taking home an actor, and you know how we call martini at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Well, it comes from a real thing, and they actually used to drink a martini or do a shot at the end of the night. Like, that was a thing. You do a shot, you go home. Well, this actor did a shot. This makeup artist did a shot, and you know, this actor couldn't drive or didn't drive, and Transpo was supposed to be taking him home, but he and the makeup artist had become very close with one another. And so she was like, you know, we live in the same area. I'll take you home. And he was like, oh, great. I didn't want to wait on the Transpo van anyway. So they went home. Of course, there was an accident. Was not her fault. Another car hit them, but because they found alcohol in her system and the actor's system, you know, she's pretty much lost her whole career and got charges thrown at her that was like humongous charges that, you know, that she wouldn't have gotten if she was a Caucasian woman, you know, driving this actor home. It would have, and the fact that the accident was not even her fault, like somebody like slammed into them, you know. So, but the production company sued her. It was crazy because they have to now hire an actor to fill the spot because they can't use this actor anymore. So they end up suing her for his salary, for the upcoming salary of the next person. It was like a huge thing. It was like people throwing the book at this lady left and right. And it's this horror story that we all get, you know, told when we come into the industry of like, don't become too close. This is why we say don't become too close with the actor. This is why we say don't go over to actors' homes. This is why we say, you know, don't be in cars with them. Like, kind of keep that professional distance, because if something happens, they're not going to blame the actor. They're going to blame you. And it all like stems from the core of that original story. And everybody knows that that story would have went completely different if even if you was driving them home. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
They would all be like, well, we all take a shot at the end of the night. And that, you know, that was just a shot, you know, and that was not even her fault. But no, it did not go that way. She went to jail. She went to prison. She got out of prison with lawsuits, and she has no career.
That is, I have no words for that.
Yeah. So it's things like that that keep me humble, because I know I stand on people's shoulders like that, you know, that paved, you know, that gave some major sacrifices for me to be here. I have no room for ego. And like, how dare I, you know, how dare the next person that comes up behind me to have like some type of ego because they've gotten something so fast. You was able to get it so fast because other people made so many sacrifices.
It's crazy to
But
me.
we have to tell those stories.
It's crazy to me that we treat actors that way. Like,
yeah.
I mean, yes, her experience, but also that we glorify them so much that their value is so much more than 300 crew members. Like, it's just
any day of the week. Any day of the week. And it's also sometimes crazy that they allow it. I must say, Joseph Morgan really should really just set the standard. I remember one day it was raining really bad, and they was putting some actors on a van, and we was crew members just standing there. You know, we were standing in the rain as well, and it was starting to lightning was starting to flash, and they was like, "Hold up, you guys can't get on this van because this is the actor's van." And Joseph like slung the door open, and he was like, "Are you kidding me?" He was like, "It is lightning." He was like, "No, F that. Come on, everybody, come on. If we have to sit in one another's laps, come on, let's go." And he was like, "What?" And then the PA was standing there with the umbrella once we got on, and he was like, "What are you waiting for? Come on." Because she was even like confused on whether or not she should get on the van or not. And he was like, "No, let's go." But, you know, I can't say that every actor would have done that. You know, we hope that they would, but we've seen examples where they would have just let somebody bust them right off, and everybody else got to wait on the next van. But he wasn't gonna have it. But yeah, and so I think they also have to set the standard or change the narrative for things like that. If you want to see a change in things like that, but depends on who you get.
That it does. That's crazy. Oh, set life.
Yeah, it's been an interesting run, right?
Yeah, now I'm having flashbacks to having wet jeans for 10 hours.
I saw that. I brought out some trauma for you. See, I told you we started off talking about these traumas that we don't deal with.
Listen, I am in my season of healing right now. I have been doing my future self-journaling in the morning, and I've set a goal to run a half marathon, partially because I want that time as like my designated time to just sit in whatever it is I need to sit in every day. And like have it as a part of the journey, but it's there. You just kind of have to be willing to get your shovel and dig it up and not bury it deeper.
Yeah, definitely. It's beneficial to do so, and so you can go ahead and release it, because certain things are triggers, And just now when I brought it up, it's kind of like, yeah.
Oh yeah, you always remember those experiences. The actors who do say something, the actors who don't say something, the ones that you're just like, okay, cool. Can you go to set now? That'd be great. Thanks.
Please and thank you.
Been there. Like,
can you just get some real dolls.
Get in the van.
Yeah. You get some real dolls, and sometimes you just get some real duds too. It's kind of like, it's unfortunate.
All right. Things that you're doing to stay motivated now that you've you hit the top really quickly. So how are you keeping yourself creatively engaged and staying in that space? Like, what are you doing for yourself right now?
Indie projects and things to that nature. Definitely working with other writers and directors who are doing like little indie projects and giving my 2 cents on that. From like, I'm here and I'm gaining all this information, all this free education, I would say. So to pass that on to people who want to be in the industry, different writers and directors, and they want to do independent films, and they call somebody like me and they go, well, I know, or they'll reach out to me on Instagram like, I know I couldn't afford you, but if you can give me any advice, and I want to see it. And I was like, send me an NDA and let me read what you're working on. And they was like, what's the NDA? They don't even know what an NDA is. And I was like, it's a non-disclosure agreement, which means I can't take your script. Like, everything, you should never send this script out to anyone without sending an NDA. They're like, oh my God, I didn't even know that. So just teaching in that way. And also, once I read something and I will go, oh, I would love to come do this. I would love to, help you with this. And, and they're always like shocked. It's my time to like be creative and do some projects and do some things that I want to do in the way that I want to do them. So although it seems as though I'm helping them, like, they're helping me to kind of get my hands into like different pots, because I don't want to just be on the hair and makeup side of things. Like I said before, I've always vocally said what I wanted, and I do want to get into like the producer side of things. There are producers, like the producer who first gave me my start, who gave me my hair and makeup department running 101. Her primary job was just the looks of these characters. So I want to be that producer in that position that, or just oversees that portion. There's like so many different stages that directors have to go through before even, or costumes and hair and makeup have to go through even before presenting something to a director. So I want to be at that stage of like being that final person of, this is what we present, instead of like just sending it all to them, kind of cutting out that middleman in that way of sending hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of photos, instead of just like sending the best 5 or a 10 or whatever for them to choose from. I want to be that person that sits there and decides what they see when it comes to stuff like that. Because Shelby is that person who decides what they see when it comes to stuff like that. She kind of eliminates some of the stress. And trust me, a director don't want to see 100 photos. Like, they never want to see 100 photos. It's just overwhelming. They want to see like the top 10 of what of costumes, the top tens of hairstyles, makeup choices. They don't want to see, five shades. They don't know what five. Most men, even women, don't know what five shades of red look like. They know one is a little cooler than the next, and one is a little warm. But there's like oranges and reds and blues, and there's different types of reds. So, and they don't always know what they're picking because, like, I will know the lighting setup. I know, or we're shooting inside or outside, whether it's black and white or color, like how that look will read. If it's a blue red and we're shooting in black and white, of course it's gonna look black. But if it's like a orange red and we're shooting in black and white, it won't look. It'll look like Lucille Ball, you know. So things like that, and they'll just pick colors because okay, I need to pick one out of this 100, and they'll just pick things. It's like no, I'm presenting to you in the light and the filter that I notice you're shooting in. What's going to look best in that filter, and you choose from those. So pushing to get positioned like that now is kind of like at the top of my having those meetings with different producers. And let me tell you something, Savannah, that is hard to do. Like I said, once again, to come out is it kind of reminds me of when I was coming out of the salon going into film and television. I was trying to explain why I wanted to do this and how to actually get producers on the phone to talk about certain things and give certain ideas and say I want to do this, and sometimes not getting any calls back at all, or even getting calls back. I think sometimes getting the call back is almost worse than not getting the call back at all. It's kind of like, okay, hey, I just got a call about a month ago and I was like, wasn't you telling me about a project for this? And Netflix just came and gave me like this huge deal and I got to get some content out. Are you still interested in doing this? And it's kind of like, yeah, but I didn't think you was taking me seriously, so am I prepared to do that? So you gotta, at that moment, you gotta be ready with your pitch. So tell me about it. It's kind of like now, while I'm driving down the street, you like, yeah, tell me about it. And so you have to take a deep breath. And here's where I say that confidence has to come in, where you kind of go through your whole spiel of not only what you want to do, but why you want to do this. Why is it important for this time? Why people want to see it? And it can't just be like, well, listen, Netflix, Hulu, and everybody else need a whole bunch of content right now because people are just sitting at home watching TV. So it does not matter. You can't say that. And that's maybe what I'm thinking. Like, it doesn't matter. You just need content. Let's go. But you have to go. This is what the world needs right now, and why? Because either that point of view isn't present, or we need more of this point of view from this time period because of this is Andy Warhol time period, like that, a big fashion, a big art movement happened at this time. It's but you have to be ready with it. So like I said, those callbacks can sometimes be overwhelming, more so than not getting one at all. So I'm like, okay, I knew they wasn't going to call me back. I knew they wasn't going to take me seriously. But because I believe in 369, I kind of knew they was going to call me back. Like, what am I talking about? Like, what do you mean, Victor? You knew they were going to call. So you have to be prepared. So that's what I'm doing. That's how I keep myself. I have a lot of independent projects because I want to move up to another level that I'm just like working on, pushing towards, like getting my name out there, flapping my mouth as much as I can about what kind of value can I bring to this project and why you need me, and how can I help you more so than why I need you. Is all have to be focused on why you need me in this moment. Yeah.
I think that's good business advice in general, though. Even as, I hate pitching. Pitching is my least favorite part of my job. It exhausts my energy.
I know.
But if you can't tell why you're valuable and why somebody would work with you, I mean, you've lost the conversation.
You kind of lost it a while ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you lost it before it started, actually. Yeah.
True. Very true.
Yeah.
Okay, what is your wellness hack? Because film hours are long and you are a very busy person. So what's something that you feel like has really helped you just stay healthy and strong doing all that you do?
I always say the key to physical health is definitely mental health. Like, we cannot negate meditating, spending some time alone, some type of practices, yoga, like is something very good. And I was one of those people to go, I hate yoga because I'm stiff and I'm not flexible at all, and I always feel like my poses don't look like the person who's all long and lean. And I want my poses. I'm an overachiever, so I want my poses to look like the lady poses on the dang film. And if it doesn't look like that on the video, like the lady on the video, I'm probably not gonna do it. But I have to keep telling myself, like, listen, you feel better than you felt yesterday because you did it. And your poses will get better as you go forward. But I do during the pandemic, I've always been a person who watched what I eat. I was a yo-yo dieter. I am still a yo-yo dieter, and I'm now not. This is the first time I'm saying to myself that I'm no longer doing that. Because it has come to me in so many ways. Yeah, right. Thank you. It has come to me from so many different messages from the universe that this is not good. You should stop doing this. And I've confirmed, I never believed it. I always thought, thinner is better. You must be fit. If you're thinner, you must be fit. And that's not always the case. So I've gotten out of that mindset, like, no matter what size I am, because I was much heavier at one point. So I always tell people, no matter how many times you lose the weight, and when you lose weight, you're still the person that you originally started off. You're still that 300-pound person or that 250-pound person, whatever size you started off in your mind. So any amounts of weight gained, you immediately go back to, oh my God, I feel, I can't breathe. I feel like my legs are heavy. I feel tired. It's a mental thing. So during the pandemic, I was like, this is the time. I'm at home. I'm going to get in the best physical shape of my life. Whatever abs I wanted, they will show up this time. However I want my arms to look, they will show up this time. And in the midst of doing that, Savannah, what I learned is, because I was spending a lot of time alone and doing a lot of stretching in between because I was tearing my body up in such a way, what I learned is, like, oh, I originally started off doing this for the physical aspect of it, but my mental space, like, let me tell you something. To be a black man in America and you see an Ahmaud Arbery happen in broad daylight in 2020, the traumatizing effect of that is, like, you think this could happen to me? That looked like the street that I live on. Like, and I run on a street that looked very similar, like full of trees, curved like that, where the houses are spaced out. Like, this could just happen to me. And my neighbors, wouldn't know it was happening to me in that way until it has happened. No one would come out. And you always think, well, this couldn't happen, because people run out and be like, what are you doing? Stop that. Like, are you guys crazy? Like, what are you doing? But that did not happen. So do you think, oh my God, my son looks like this. This could happen to him or a cousin. So, like, this whole mental depression thing happens, that it becomes like this huge weight on you. So in the midst of like that, it was like I wanted to not only be physically stronger for what I look like, but also wanted to be stronger for, just in case this happened to me, I could be strong enough to defend myself. Like, thinking that I had to be like a warrior now, like this, I gotta be able to fight to the death. And I didn't, never in my life have I ever contemplating ever having to fight to the death. Like, you see that on, like, movies, this does not happen in real life like that. So it started off that way, but I didn't realize how traumatized I was until I started to, like, work out and imagining, like, doing, like, air boxing, and imagining if I had to, like, air box somebody off of me, like, then realizing in that moment why I was doing that and why I felt like I had to do that. And then tears started to, like, run down my face, and I started to realize, like, oh my God, like, I am in a state of shock and trauma. Like, I am doing this because I am traumatized. But in that moment, once those tears start to run down, it was kind of like, okay, there's something mentally wrong. And so then the exercises started to turn into something to fix my mental health. And it was kind of like, oh, okay, so my mental health is most important in order to even to get to like certain exercise, to get to certain ab workouts, and to push myself to that next level when I'm sore or whatever. Like, oh, all of that stuff is mental. I never got there before because I wasn't mentally zoned in to like, okay, my legs are gonna hurt, but I got to do my recovery stuff. I know what I got to do. I got to get up. I got to do this. And the discipline behind it all. So I started I'm saying all that to say, trying to do something that was based off vanity at first, then trying to do something that was based off being in defense of myself. I realized that my mental health was the most important, and I started to like zone in and started to like read and meditate and get back into like my manifestation for what I wanted for my life, and also try to figure out what I could do against something like this whole Ahmaud Arbery situation. Like, what can I do that that isn't physical, that I have to go out and fight against something like this? Like looking at certain organizations that was actually on the ground doing certain things, certain protests, certain Act Blue and different organizations that needed money, and I had extra funds to do X, Y, and Z to try to help in that way. So I just had to kind of like rechannel everything. But in the midst of that, I was healing myself, and I didn't even know I needed healing at the time until I was just airboxing myself to death one day, and realized that I was actually imagining. Oh my God, this is my first time ever saying this out loud. I was actually imagining that I was punching at somebody with a Ku Klux Klan hood on in 2020. Yeah, because I started my workout in the evening, and it started to get dark, and I was like facing like my deck area, and it was just all woods, and that imagery went from like the sun going down to being darker, and I was punching, and that I could see like something white moving between the trees, and before I knew it, whatever white was moving between the trees was like somebody in a Ku Klux Klan hood. They all black from the bottom down, just a hood on up top, and they were like standing right at the end of my porch or right at the end of my deck, and I was punching at that. That had mentally showed up. It was like, okay, something is wrong.
It's
Crazy,
crazy
right?
what movement will
Mm-hmm.
bring out in
Mm-hmm.
you, and like trauma that you're physically holding you don't even know, and then you get through
Didn't
it and
even
you're
know it.
like, oh, that was a landmine, we
Yeah,
should probably deal with that.
yeah, yeah. We should deal with that. Yeah, this is more than a workout today. So yeah, go deal with that. Grab your glass of wine and figure some things out. Yeah,
Well, I am
yeah,
so sorry that you had to go through that, but I'm so grateful that you created this space and held the space for yourself to acknowledge that you were going through that and
yeah,
taking the time to sit in it, even though it's hella uncomfortable, I
yeah.
can imagine.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And then it didn't stop. So it was kind of like, okay, you got to figure out how to navigate through this so you can function, so you can still function. Yeah. Then I started to like think about what everybody else in the world that was going through who didn't have my privileged lifestyle, because I will be the first to vocalize that my lifestyle is very privileged compared to most of the people that look like me. And I became then this moment of gratitude started to come over me, but then it started to like even had to sit in that, like, at the end of the day, no one knows who I am and what I do for a living and all of those different things. Like, when they if they're doing something crazy racist, and they could be doing something against me because they feel as though I shouldn't be in this neighborhood, because my neighborhood is predominantly white. When I walk out of my neighborhood and go for a run, most of the signs that was up and down my street were Trump Pence signs, and that doesn't mean everybody who vote for Trump Pence is racist. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm just saying, most of the people in the neighborhood did not look like me or identify with what my life and look like growing up, or even going forward for people who look like me. So even having to sit in that, like, okay, like, yeah, I don't have, I have some protections because I'm not exposed to certain things, but do I feel protected because I am a neighborhood of people who may or may not protect me.
That's a lot.
It's a lot, girl.
I mean, I can only speak to the small portion of walking through it, having a female black best friend, and having those conversations of, if you're going for a run, one of us needs to know. We need to know when you leave. Everybody
Yeah.
needs to know your location.
Yeah.
Like,
Uh-huh.
our
Uh-huh.
precautions. But
Uh-huh. It
that's
same way with my daughter. It was the same way. It was like turn on, like, share your location wherever you're going. Like, share your location until you're back home. And she didn't grow up like that. So she grew up in Midtown Atlanta. So it's kind of like, well, what? None of her friends look like her. She has Jewish friends. She has Muslim friends. She had all of her friends are different. Hispanic. Raina, she's African American, but Raina's also biracial. So she was the only person that was like fully African American out of her core group of friends. So this is culture shock for her as well.
it's such
To
a
even have to like,
it's so important, but it's not a simple conversation. I won't say, I mean, I think there are conversations where people are open and it's easier to have them, and everybody wants to show up, the people who want to show up to the table and say, listen, I always know that I don't know something, so please tell me. But still,
Yeah.
I cannot
I know it's heavy.
imagine being a parent. Okay, well, let's make it lighter.
Yeah.
Beauty
Okay.
or a hair
Let's
tip.
end on a light note.
Yes. Beauty or hair tip you wish that everybody knew.
Hair is like plants. If you think of hair like plants, your hair would be just fine.
Okay.
So there's a root, okay?
Okay.
There's like your hair, your strands are like leaves, and the pores on them like open up to receive water. Not the follicle. Why my brain is going crazy? But your hair has actually scales that open up to receive water. Like when your hair gets frizzy, it's because it's missing some type of moisture. So what it's doing is it opens up to receive the moisture out of the air. And it can do that. It's kind of like putting a plant in a bathroom. If you have a bathroom that has a window in it and you put the plant in there, that plant would do better than any other plant in your home. Because once you take a shower every night, there's like a steam treatment that happens for that plant, and it receives like that water at night, and it gets like more water than your other plants in a way that is not overwatering, because it opens up and just takes in what it needs more so than it does when you just dump it all on the roots. So if you think of hair like that, you would know how to then create or control like the moisture and the maintenance of your hair for being like so porous, the porosity of it. You can kind of bring it down when you think about it like that. So when you want to
change
add
my
moisture,
hair care routine.
Oh yeah, if you steam your hair before adding conditioner, or if you steam your hair before adding any type of moisturizer, and then blowing it or mist it down before adding any kind of moisturizer on it if it's feeling kind of dry, like it'll receive that so much better because that water opens it up so it can kind of absorb it more so than sitting on top.
It's going to be my new hair hack. I'm very excited to incorporate this into my life. Thank you for your wisdom.
Steam will save your skin and your hair. So if you have a little Amazon steamer at home, you just steam your face and steam your hair and then start your whole routine, you'll see a big difference immediately.
Good to know. Okay, and then last question. Well, two last questions. Book, movie, or quote that's changed your life?
Movie that changed my life would definitely... Oh my God, there's so many different ones and different... Okay, I will tell you this. This is kind of crazy. Beaches. If you ever heard of Beaches with Bette Midler.
I've heard of Beaches. I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it. Yeah.
It's one of my favorite movies because it was my first introduction that everything doesn't last always, and also that there's also beauty in what's left behind. Okay? Because if you haven't seen the movie, there's someone that passes away, but their daughter is left behind. So the movie goes from there. But it was one of the quotes that are definitely one of the movies that changed my life. What was the other quote that changed my life?
You could pick quote, movie, book, whatever works for you. I know that some people
Oh,
can't
okay.
pick them all.
Yeah. Well, beauty was beaches was definitely one of them. A quote that changed my life was definitely by I have a few. Well, one was definitely by Maya Angelou. If someone shows you who they are, believe them. Like that's one of those things that have really changed my life because it helps me to navigate. I used to be one of those type of people that try to fix people and try to like give them a second chance and maybe having a bad day or whatever. But whatever they present, or once they present something different, you kind of like believe them. Even if you give them some grace here and there for certain things, you kind of like have to like believe like what's that thing, that common denominator that keeps coming up, what's at the core of that person. That's within relationships, that's within job, employees, family members, you name it. And one of my favorite books is The Past, and I can't think of or Native Son. I think Native Son would be one of my favorite books. And I can't think of the author name right now. I feel as I feel bad because I can't think of the author of Native Son. But Native Son is definitely like one of those books that I can get lost in, and it kind of hits on so many different. Richard Wright is the author of Native Son, and it just kind of hits on like so many different life's experiences, even though it's from this one particular character's point of view. It definitely hits on like life experiences that you can apply across the board. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay, and last question. If there was something missing from Crafty, like the entirety of some food, what would you be accused for taking?
That is so funny.
It's always a great question because everybody has. Actors always want the sugary stuff. Every actor I have talked to takes all the donuts or all the mints or all of the sweet stuff.
It has changed over the years. It started off as oh my god, it has really changed over the years. There were these peanut M&Ms that used to be like in a container that you should sit over to the side. I'll always steal those. But then it changed to Kit Kat came out with a mint chocolate covered Kit Kat that was chocolate on the inside with mint covered on the outside. I'll always go steal those because definitely something sweet. But then as my diet began to change, I started to steal like anything that was like non-dairy. Like so if it was like a non-dairy creamer that was like in a little crafty cooler, yeah, I was definitely taking that whole creamer because I knew throughout the day that I was going to be drinking more coffee than anybody else, and that they only bought one non-dairy creamer for 300 people. And yeah, I was like, no, I'm taking this non-dairy creamer because everybody else is just fake vegan, and I'm like going at it for real. And I want the
Where were
non-dairy
you
creamer.
when I was plant-based on set? I've been raiding the hair trailer.
I'm not plant-based anymore, but I'm still dairy free. So. So to this day, I still don't do the dairy. If we're out and we're at like some fancy restaurant and someone orders the lobster mac and cheese, I'll taste, oh my god, I haven't had that in so long. I'll taste a forkful, but I'm always like, I shouldn't have done that. But it's definitely not in my day to day. But I try not to deprive myself of things. Yeah, I try not to. Well, I feel like everything in moderation. That's so funny. I'm quoting Maya Angelou again. She said, everything in moderation. In moderation's for your moderation. And I was like, okay, I get that. Like, I don't know why I get that, but I get exactly what you're saying. Yeah.
Well, thank you for catching up with me. I miss you guys. I feel like
I know.
Eventually we'll be in.
Come back.
I mean, it's the plan. I would love to be back in Atlanta in about 6 months. I'm manifesting that for the next year, but I have 2 weddings in December here, and I'm maid of honor for one, and I'm like, let's just get through.
Yeah, one step at a time. Yeah, I understand.
But I'm
I
so
understand.
grateful that I got to spend the time talking to you and hearing your story and just catching up with
Yeah,
you in general, but actually getting to
it was
sit
a
down
lot.
and have time to have this conversation.
Yeah, I
I'm
appreciate it. Thank you for
excited
inviting me.
to see what you manifest next.
Okay, I'm gonna write it down. I'm gonna start writing it down, and then I'm going to like show you once it kind of like comes to fruition. I'm gonna show you like, look, I wrote this down after talking with you,
Please text
and
me and send it to
this is
me.
the
I
day
love
that it
it because
happened.
I've
Yeah,
been manifesting some stuff
yeah,
lately too,
I
and
will.
it's so fun. It's also kind of terrifying because then you're like, what did I not get
Oh my
because
God,
my
it's
energy
spooky.
was not in the right space?
Yeah, yeah. You get what I'm telling you. You get what you'd attract. The law of attraction is definitely like a real thing.
All right, guys, thank you so much for listening to this episode and joining us for this journey. If you loved it, tell a friend. If you have questions for Victor, if you want more follow up stuff, come let us know on Instagram. You can follow me at What's Heavy Said and the podcast at What's Heavy Said X Podcast on Instagram. I will link Victor's Instagram down in the show notes below, as well as Project 369 and any of the other things that we mentioned, because I know he mentions a few books. And yeah, if you haven't reviewed the episode, please go do that on iTunes because that helps us rank a little bit higher and it's how other people can find us. But also share with a friend and let me know if you have any guest requests. I really want to get some more people from film that are behind the scenes on the podcast because I love that. I love that crew. So let me know if there's somebody specific you want me to talk to. I would love to get them in our little space to chat. But I love you. It is a good day to have a good day, and I hope you all have a beautiful week. Bye, friends.